Alright guys, round 2 on figuring out this pushrod length situation on the 4.8. I had that one out of spec valve stem height. I had to go to a longer pushrod, not a shorter pushrod like we thought. Milling the heads 30, extending the valve stem 30, I would be right back at a 7.400 or thereabouts length. So what I opted to do was keep the 7.350 length push rods in the other 15, and then I just threw a 7.400 in on that oddball valve, which is the exhaust valve for the #1 cylinder. Following that logic of changing your push rod length for milled cylinder heads, I should be closer to 7.375 inch on all the other 15. Basically, I had that lifter knock, not a tick, because I've had people talk about the sewing machine sound, and I'm well aware of what like a solid lifter cam sounds like, tight lash, roll. This is a lifter knock that was coming from my driver's side bank, and the only thing I can think of is that oddball extended or taller valve stem height was causing that lifter to have too much free play, or basically not enough preload. And the way this driver's side head sounds when the motor's running, especially once it warms up. Got a nice gallop and chop to it when you first start it. Hopefully when I get the money, I will take it and have it professionally tuned, and I will let him figure it out, or her. I'm just assuming it's gonna be a guy. I apologize. Crazy sexist statement there. If we run into any knock retard, we can cross that bridge when we get there. If you have parts of your fuel table, your VE and your fuel real lean, you could be getting lean spark knock, and then as you dial in your VE and get your fuel trimmed, you know, out the way you need it, you may have to put timing back in it to get the power. See if she tries to die on me. No, because it does way better idling, restoring idle and everything when it's cold, because there's more idle air being introduced through the IAC. Did a little bit of experimenting to kind of see where it would shift. And I think the way I modified that, grams on the weights in the governor, these 5500, and I can always dial it in to shift it even higher, which, you know, once you get into a fast vehicle, sometimes it's better to have two hands on the steering wheel and be able to dial in them shift points so you can control the stupid thing better. We still don't have any heat in the engine, guys. I'm just going to cruise along a little bit here. Just let her warm up a little bit. I did finally change the break-in oil, because I knew I had 500 miles on the engine. So I went ahead and took the break-in oil and filter off, and I did make the change to the full synthetic Mobil 1 5W30. Now this GM muscle car oil pan has the 22mm by 150 thread nipple on it, and the only filter they recommend running is like that 48E, and it all has to do with whether it has an internal bypass feature or not. A lot of the unknown factors with doing pushrod length is you have to know 100% by measuring what's required, because there's so many inconsistencies in the build. If you don't have exactly factory replacement lifters, the pushrod cup can be in a different spot. The plunger assembly can be different. Online, there's several builders. I don't know if this is credible or not. They swear that the factory LS pushrod length is actually 7.385, not a 7.400. So anytime you put gaskets you're running the exact same thickness as the factory ones? Mine are supposed to be, but that don't mean they are. Then you got to look at things like cylinder head. Did you surface your head? How much did you surface it? There's so many different variables that all add up together for pushrod length. You have to measure it to know 100%. And I will, verify all this stuff. I'm just trying to, get this thing tuned enough where I'm comfortable driving it every day.
way the wiring works to it
coming into the neighborhood the other day, was just kind of testing the foot brake, and I was like, you know, I pushed that thing up to 4,100 RPM without spinning the tires. So yeah, rear gear has a huge effect on how your torque converter couples, and you know, I don't want to burn anything up with such a loose converter, because it's adding a good 15% slippage, and I'd like to have it well under 10, if not under 7. I know some of the more expensive, you know, better built converters, you can get a lot more efficiency than this thing provides. I should use my blinkers, it's the wall. Section of this road, you don't want to be driving too fast, because when you come up over this hill, there's a little Hooterville